Hello, and welcome to episode 5 of the Armchair All-Americans NBA podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Rodriguez, here with Harrison Scott.
Hey, what's up, Matt? Good to be back.
This week, we're going to talk about the MVP race between James Harden and Russell Westbrook. We're also going to touch on a topic from last week's episode about Zach LaVine and Andrew Wiggins. Going to go over some recent headline stuff. Paul Millsap trade rumors, Rondo trade rumors, some Otto Porter stuff, get into the Wizards a little bit. And that's what we're going to start with right now. Harrison, you want to start talking about Rondo?
Yeah, let's talk about Rondo. Is anybody still a fan of Rondo? That's my first question, because the guy just seems to piss everybody off everywhere he goes. And, Fred Hoiberg finally stepped up and grew a pair and benched him, which I think was the right move for the team. You know, he doesn't play defense. He doesn't like giving the ball up. He's not a good shooter. I didn't understand the Bulls signing him in the offseason in the first place. And so, yeah, I mean, now he's finally benched, and I saw this coming from a mile away, but, he's a big name, so everybody wanted to give him another chance. But, yeah, I mean, it didn't come as a shock to me to see Rondo get benched.
Yeah, I will answer your question. I still kind of am a Rondo fan. I just think that he's gotten some bad spots, and I don't know if he's completely like a bad seed, but I feel like it's too late for him now. He's not in his prime anymore. He's not at the player that he was when he was in Boston, and he doesn't have that strong sort of coach that Doc Rivers was, and that strong locker room that Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce brought. And I think that he was brought in to be a leader, and that's not really who he is. And Dwayne Wade's, I don't feel like he respects Wade enough to listen to what he says, or if Wade has that strong enough personality. I don't think he, compared to Kevin Garnett, he's not gonna like get in your face and start cursing you out like Garnett probably would. But I think I'm still a fan, and the rumors are that maybe Cleveland would be interested. And I was watching that game last night, and I think they need a backup point guard. I don't know if Ty Lue is the guy to coach him, but definitely Braun would be a guy that could give him some leadership, a guy he would respect. So I mean, it might make sense, but then again, the flip side of that is what happens if he comes in and disturbs your chemistry that you have of a championship team. So, I mean, what do you think about that Cleveland rumor?
Yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from with the chemistry. When Rondo got benched, I think it was obvious that everybody who knows the league immediately started thinking of places he could land with a trade or something like that. That just that'd be a good fit for him, because it's pretty obvious the Bulls don't want to keep him on the team. He didn't even play last night, but yeah, I immediately thought of Cleveland. I think it's one of the two teams that he could actually succeed on, just because, like you said, LeBron is that leader. He won't put up with Rondo's shit. And, he's basically going to say, you want to buy into the team? Go ahead, buy into the team. We're going to go to the championship. If not, we'll just, you won't play. And I think LeBron is really great for players like Rondo, in that he just finds a way to get the best out of guys. Like, because J.R. Smith was a lot like Rondo until he got to Cleveland. Like, J.R. Smith was a ball hog. He liked just jacking up threes. He didn't care about the team effort. He didn't play defense well. Then he got to Cleveland, and LeBron kind of, took him under his wing. And I mean, J.R. Smith is a solid, productive player in the NBA today. And I don't think people give JR enough credit, and I don't think people give LeBron enough credit for what he turned JR into, Even Kyrie has grown tremendously in the 2 years LeBron has been back on the Cavaliers. So, yeah, I definitely immediately thought Rondo to Cleveland, and I do think they could use a backup point guard. So, yeah, I mean, that might be the team for him. So, I like Rondo to Cleveland. The other team I thought of was the Spurs, but the Spurs aren't going to do that, so I didn't even really give any thought to it. But
yeah, the Spurs definitely popped into my mind too, just because I feel like Pop could maybe bring him in a little bit, and he could be that kind of coach that would help him. But I think you're right. I didn't even think about the JR stuff, but JR was wild, and his in those Nugget days and in the New York days, and he came to Cleveland, and I think it's just a thing where like they have a serious chance to win a championship, and like that's not never really been the case before in that his career. And then you have a guy like LeBron, who he was with Melo, and Melo's not, it's hard to. LeBron's going to get you the pass to get you a good shot,
Right.
and Melo's not going to do that. So that just brings a whole nother level of respect into the equation. But I think it's getting really close to the end for Rondo, and I think he needs to like take a hard look in the mirror. And
Right.
see.
And it's not like Rondo, he's never won. Like the guy won a championship like on that Celtics team. Like he was a really good player on that team. He knows how to win. That's not the issue. I think he just needs to get it through his head that he has to, if he wants to win again, he's got to take more of a backseat role instead of being the guy.
Yeah, I think I think coming off the bench would be hard for him.
Yeah.
That adjustment would be really tough. The other trade rumor that's going on is the Hawks are shopping Paul Millsap.
Amen.
And the two teams that I think would really benefit if they could make a move on him would be the Celtics and the Raptors.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I was looking at the Raptors roster, and I think they start some. I don't remember what their power forward name is. I was looking it up.
Solinger. Jared Solinger.
Is that who they start? Oh, okay, yeah. That makes sense. But I think he's definitely an upgrade for them.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Solinger's a 11-point a game guy. The Raptors were definitely one of the teams I picked too. Just that would be so scary having Lowry, DeRozan, and Millsap on the court at the same time. And the thing about the Millsap move is it's a classic contender move. You know what I mean? Like he's not a game breaker. He's not going to swing a series one way or the other, but he's a really solid player and can help you get to the next level, whatever that may be. I want to come back to Boston because I had Boston through the whole time I was prepping for this podcast, and then a couple days ago I changed my mind, and I'll let you know about that in a second. The other team I had was Portland. I think Portland could really benefit from him, a really solid defensive player who can, stretch the floor a little bit, hit some threes. I'm not sure exactly how they would do it, but I do think the benefit of Paul Millsap is that he's a free agent at the end of the year. And so teams can kind of get him relatively cheap because, they're not going to give a ton up for him because there's no guarantee he's going to sign with whoever he gets traded to. So I do think Portland might be able to swing that, especially because Atlanta, I feel like they, as a team, know that they're about to enter a rebuilding season of their franchise. So I don't know. I would love to see him on Portland. That's just another team that comes to mind. So the Boston thing, though, what I was thinking of is I don't know if you did you watch the Boston Jazz game Tuesday night?
No, I didn't catch that one.
So the Boston fans gave a huge like round of applause to Gordon Hayward when he was introduced to the crowd. A lot, like very similar to what they did for Kevin Durant when they were trying to go after him in free agency. And that got me thinking, Gordon Hayward's a free agent at the end of the year. Brad Stevens coached Gordon Hayward in college. Gordon Hayward could end up on the Celtics. And I think that he's a much better fit on that team than Paul Millsap. And so I would not make the Millsap move if I was Boston, because then if you are going after Gordon Hayward in the offseason, you're not going to re-sign Paul Millsap. And like Boston, they don't need to win right now because they've got all those draft picks, which they've got the Nets first round pick, which, the Nets have settled into what everybody thought they were going to be, and they're the worst team in the league at 8-25. And even if you make the Millsap move, like I said, it gets you to the next level, but that's at best the second best team in the East for Boston. Millsap's not going to beat the Cavaliers for you. So I think they should wait and not go after Millsap and try to go after Gordon Hayward in the offseason. That's what I think for Boston.
Yeah. That Gordon Hayward thing makes a lot of sense. That could really help them out. And I think the age thing starts to come in.
Yeah, definitely.
Paul Millsap's 31.
Yeah, Gordon Hayward's 25, 26, yeah.
So, that makes a lot more sense. You get a lot more out of Paul Millsap's better days are unfortunately probably behind him
Right.
compared to Gordon Hayward, where he's still entering his prime. You
Especially
got
because Gordon Hayward and Brad Stevens. Brad Stevens was the coach of the Butler team that Gordon Hayward was on that went to the NCAA championship and almost beat Duke. Gordon
yeah,
Hayward was the guy who took the half-court shot that almost went in to win. So, yeah, I would love to see them reunited in Boston. I thought about that when I was watching the game, and the more I thought about it, the more excited I get. So that's just my prediction, but I really hope it comes true.
yeah, that would be really good for the Celtics if they could make that happen. I think the thing with the Celtics is, just touching on this quickly, is they kind of have a decision to make constantly of if they want to dive in for it now or keep kind of waiting it out a little bit. Like the same thing with the DeMarcus Cousins potential trade thing that could happen with them. You know, they could make a big move now and sacrifice their picks, or they could keep waiting it out and playing through the draft and seeing what they get that way. So I think either way they play it out, I mean, they could win or lose either way. Anybody they get in the draft could be a bust.
Yeah,
I think the best case for Paul Millsap would be Toronto. I think the team that could use Paul Millsap the most would be Toronto.
yeah, Toronto would probably be my. Yeah, I still really like the Portland idea too, because I really like Portland. I really enjoy watching them play. I watched them play Golden State last night. CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard are just so much fun to watch. I really want them to be good, and I mean they can. I know that they're 15 and 22, I believe, right now, but yeah, they can catch Sacramento for the 8th seed. And then as far as Boston goes, yeah, I don't think that they should try to win right now because, like I said, they've still got to play, LeBron and the Cavaliers, and I just don't see him beating that with or without Boogie. And then quickly touching on Boogie, I'm very sad about this, but the more I think about it, I feel like we're not going to see Boogie traded this year, strictly for the fact that Sacramento is solid, like in the 8th seed right now. They're in the playoffs if the playoffs started today, so I don't think they're going to trade him away and, give that up this year, which makes me sad for both Boogie and the Kings.
Yeah, you're right. They're 15 and 20, and it looks like if they can get to like 41 or 42 wins, that'll probably be the 8th seed in the West. Which, I mean, with Boogie, that doesn't count it out, and it's unfortunate that he's going to have to probably be there for the rest of the year.
Yeah, but he's a free agent at the end of the year, so if Boston could find a way to get Boogie and Gordon Hayward, I would lose my mind.
Yeah, they'd probably have to be able to keep Isaiah Thomas, or maybe under the new CBA that might be possible. If the Warriors can do it, can sign 4 superstars, there's a room other people can probably do it.
Yeah.
So the other guy we want to talk about was Otto Porter.
Right. I wanted to talk about Porter just because I read a story that the Nets are looking at trying to max him out in free agency this year. And then that got me thinking, are the Wizards willing to max him out? And then that got me thinking again, is he even willing to re-sign with the Wizards? Which, I mean, I guess if he's willing to sign with the Nets, he's willing to sign with just about anybody. But, so I started thinking of landing spots I'd like to see Otto Porter land in. So the ones I thought of were Phoenix. But Phoenix, they've got a good young team. I like the Suns. They'll always have a special place in my heart because of the Steve Nash 7 seconds or less team. I want them to be good again. I like Otto Porter, but then I started thinking about it, and they've already got TJ Warren, who he's a good young small forward too. And, I mean, I think Otto Porter's a little bit better than TJ Warren, but it's not big enough where they'd let TJ Warren go for that. It's to max out Otto Porter. So maybe if they could work out some like 3-team deal at the trade deadline where, it's a pretty even trade. They get Porter, maybe send TJ Warren somewhere else, and the Wizards get something. I think that might be a good idea. But yeah, so I'd like to see him on the Suns, but at the same time, like I said, they have TJ Warren, who's a very similar player. Another team I thought of was the Pelicans. I would love to see Otto Porter on the Pelicans. The only problem with that is Drew Holiday is also a free agent at the end of this year with Otto Porter. So I think that the Pelicans would probably try to sign Drew Holiday over Otto Porter at the end of the year. And so the team I landed on once again was Portland. That's the team I think I'd like to see him on. He could replace Maurice Harkless as the small forward on that team. I think Otto Porter, CJ McCollum, and oh my God, what's Damian Lillard would be great because Otto Porter's already playing in a very similar role on not Golden State, Washington with a very ball dominant backcourt, and he's shining in that role. So yeah, I would love to see him on Portland, who obviously are better than the Wizards, and see what they could do.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to free agency, that the Wizards should offer him a max contract because he's young. There's still a high ceiling for this kid, and I mean, I don't see why. I can see why you wouldn't because he hasn't necessarily earned the max money that. But I think if that's what you're gonna have to compete against to keep him, I would. I mean, because all the Wizards are really missing is a decent big man, and they would be a little bit better. They would be a little bit better than 500.
Why do you hate Marcin Gortat?
I don't know, man. He doesn't really protect the rim. He's kind of a softer big guy.
He's the Polish hammer.
I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big Gortat fan.
Do you think John Wall's head would explode if he was the third highest paid player on that team?
Yeah,
because he's almost there with Bradley Beal making more than him. That'd be hilarious if Otto Porter was making more than him too. I think he would just lose his mind. He'd get an 8-second violation every time the ball was inbounded in protest.
John Wall's up for a contract extension this year too, right? Or is it next year?
And I think it's next year, and he better get something, or he's gonna lose his mind.
Yeah, I mean he's gonna get his, whether it's from the Wizards or not.
Yeah.
But with the Pelicans fit would be interesting. I would like to see that for Otto Porter. And I don't know if the Pelicans would be good for him because, like you said, he has John Wall and Bradley Beal to sort of get those open shots for him now. And I don't know if he would get that and shine in New Orleans. But I think the Trailblazers would make a lot of sense if they could like flip-flop Evan Turner for Otto Porter. I think the Wizards would be on the losing end of that deal, but only for a little while because he didn't sign a full 4 or 5 year deal. It was like 3 years, $60 million.
Yeah.
So I mean, you suck up the couple of years, maybe try and then just let him go. And maybe if you got a pick out of it too, that would be awesome. And it would definitely improve the Blazers. For some reason, I kept wanting to say Wizards, but the Blazers would get better. So that would be an interesting fit too.
Yeah, I'd love to see him on Portland. If you can't tell, I really want Boston and Portland to be good.
I'm starting to get that vibe. Yeah, just a little.
Yeah. All right. You want to talk Levine versus Wiggins?
Yeah, let's touch on that from last week because I thought Marcus was crazy about. I mean, not crazy. That's maybe a little bit overstating it, but I think I really like Andrew Wiggins, and I don't think that Levine is necessarily gonna. His numbers aren't that much different from Wiggins. He shoots it's a decent amount better than Wiggins from 3-point, but they're effectively the same everywhere else. So, and I think Wiggins is a better defender. He hasn't really shown that this year, and his numbers are a little bit worse this year than they were last year, or they're not as good. But I think that just comes with having to learn how to play with Cat, and I think that's an adjustment period for both of them. But I just think saying that Zach LaVine is better than Andrew Wiggins, or that you would rather start building around either him over Wiggins is kind of crazy.
For those of you that didn't hear last week, we had another NBA writer on. His name is Marcus, and he and me were discussing the Timberwolves, and he said that he would rather have Zach LaVine over Andrew Wiggins. And at the time, I didn't have all of my arguments ready because I was not prepared to debate that topic. I thought it was pretty obvious everybody would pick Wiggins, but I guess not. So I wanted to come back to it. So I was looking at their stats. They average about the same points per game. LaVine is definitely the better shooter. He's a better free throw shooter. His effective field goal percentage is much higher. His regular field goal percentage is much higher. Wiggins is the better rebounder. LaVine is gets more assists, but that's because he's a point guard. Effectively, they're about the same right now. And my main argument for keeping Wiggins over LaVine or picking Wiggins over LaVine is that Wiggins is always the thing about him. It was him and Jabari Parker. Those were the two big guys coming out of college in 2014. And the Jabari Parker was the better player at the time. And as of right now, he still might be a little bit better than Wiggins. But the reason Wiggins went number one over Parker was his upside, was his potential. And that's what I would argue now is why you'd much rather have Wiggins. I think LaVine, this is as good as LaVine's going to get. This is what LaVine is. He's a shooter, and he's super athletic. He does dunks. He's not a great passer, and he's not a great defender. That's what Zach LaVine is. I think Wiggins has yet to become that athletic freak, the great wing player, kind of like Kawhi, not as good of a shooter as Kawhi, but a similar style. He's got Coach Thibodeau, who's a great defensive coach. He's going to help him in that part of the game. So I think LaVine is what he is, and Wiggins is going to grow into something much better than the Wiggins right now. And, to say you'd want LaVine over that and not even take the chance – because they're about the same player right now. They're about the same skill level. And to say that you want the sure pick in LaVine over what Wiggins can become, I think that's crazy.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think you're right about LaVine. I don't think he's going to get any – he's not going to become this, superb passer, or he's got athleticism and he'll beat people off the dribble every once in a while. But I think as his age slows down, it's going to be harder for him. Or as he gets older, it's going to be harder for him. And especially as people get more tape on him, because it's still relatively – he's a younger player in the league. People and he's not really a guy that you would pay attention to as much. He's getting that more attention now, but based off of last year, I don't think he would get the attention. And I think more coaches are going to start adjusting to it, and you're going to see that he's not as good as Wiggins. And I think I heard Marcus say something about the defense, that they're about the same defensively. And I don't think that's necessarily true. I think Wiggins is a much better defender. The only thing I will say, in maybe Marcus's defense, is that I could see Wiggins becoming like a Rudy Gay kind of person, where he doesn't really, if he doesn't get his 3-point shot where it needs to be, and he doesn't become a little bit of a better passer, then he could become sort of that ISO Kobe kind of guy, but not as efficient. And then that's a dangerous place to get into. And Rudy Gay's a good defender, but he's not elite by any standards. And then you kind of get into that no man's land where you're not really sure what you are. So I just think as long as he keeps working, but the upside is still there. And I think to say that it's not is kind of crazy.
Yeah. I'm just going to stick to what I've said about these two guys. Wiggins, I've said this from the time he was drafted. LaVine, I've said it since the time he kind of broke out. I think LaVine is just going to kind of be a career six man. I think a lot not similar play style, but a similar role to Jamal Crawford, where he's really good providing that spark off the bench, but he's not quite good enough to be, a really high contributing player in the starting lineup. He's good for bring him in for 15 minutes, let him continue the scoring, and then bring him back out so he doesn't have to really play defense on anybody good. Wiggins, I've said that I don't see a team that Wiggins is the best player on ever winning a championship. But if Wiggins is your second best player, I think you're a really good team. And I think the Timberwolves have, they've got the building blocks there. I think Cat is their best player, and I think Wiggins is their second best. And so I think that is going to be a really solid team as they grow and mature and play more together.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Wiggins and Cat, and I did agree with what you said about LaVine coming off the bench in last week's episode. I thought that if he came off the bench, it would definitely help him. And I mean, they don't really have the depth or the guy to really fill his spot in the starting lineup. But if they could find that or draft that guy or figure it out somehow, I think it would definitely help them.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
So you want to get into the MVP discussion now? You want to do your
Yes.
talk about the Rockets for a second and how they
Yeah.
kind of
Let me talk about the Rockets. The Rockets, a team I have hated on the entire season and since James Harden went there. And I just have one thing to say to Houston. I am sorry. I am so sorry I did not buy into what the Rockets were doing. I am so sorry I didn't buy into James Harden. This year, just watching him play, a switch flipped, and I have tremendous respect for James Harden. I have tremendous respect for the Rockets. Anybody that's going to jack up threes at this rate, I love you. I really respect the way James Harden has bought into D'Antoni's system. It's something Melo never did. And I love D'Antoni as a coach, going back to that 7 seconds or less Suns team. So I did a complete 180. I'm all on board with the Rockets. I love Harden now. So I'd just like to apologize for all the stuff I said. I was completely wrong. So
for anybody that doesn't know the history of that, go back and listen to the earlier episodes, episode like 1 through 3, where we were talking about the Rockets every week, and Harrison wasn't really feeling them, and
I wasn't.
It is definitely a change in tone compared to what we were hearing at the beginning of the season.
I am. Go Rockets. Go Rockets. James Harden is a freak.
Yeah.
He's a freak. That being said, let's get into this discussion. James Harden and Russell Westbrook. We're going to compare them, talk about MVP. And Matt, you say Westbrook, don't you?
I still say Westbrook at this point, yes.
All right. Well, I'm going to go Harden. This might be me just in my new honeymoon phase with James Harden, but I think the stats will back me up here. So let's start with I don't know how often you are on basketballreference.com, but I am on it constantly now. I am addicted to this site. If you're a big NBA fan and you don't have Basketball Reference bookmarked or your homepage, you are missing out because it is a fantastic website. Every stat you could ever want is on here, including probability percentage of players winning the MVP. And I would just like to point out that currently James Harden has a 57.6% chance of winning the MVP according to Basketball Reference. Russell Westbrook has a 5.2% chance. So what do you think about that, Matt?
I think that if Russell Westbrook stays at a triple-double, there's no way that the writers are going to vote him MVP. And I think that's the only thing that's going to – because the teams are not going to have similar records.
Right. The Rockets are clearly going to have
the Rockets
record, barring injury.
Yeah, even unless it's Harden's injury, I think they'll still stay up there. But I think the teams – Harden's team's going to be better. They're going to be like probably anywhere from 2 to 3 in the West. And so he's going to have the advantage there. But I think that if there's no way that they're not going to vote him Westbrook in MVP if he stays at a triple-double, where he's at right now still.
He is. You're right. He's averaging about 31 points per game, 10.5 rebounds, and 10.5 assists per game. So, I mean, he's definitely up there, but let me just read you James Harden's numbers. James Harden's averaging 28 points per game, 8 rebounds a game, and about 12 assists per game. So he's averaging 3 less points per game, about 2 less rebounds per game, and 2 more assists per game than Westbrook. And Westbrook is shooting 42% from the floor compared to Harden's 44%. That's a pretty similar stat. Harden's shooting 35% from 3 and Westbrook's shooting 31% from 3. The big difference is in their effective field goal percentage, which for those of you that don't know, it's basically field goal percentage that adjusts for the fact that a 3-point field goal is worth 1 more point than a 2-point field goal. It's a lot of math I don't understand. I know the stat. And James Harden is shooting 52% with his effective field goal percentage compared to Westbrook's 46%. So I think they are very similar. But I think James Harden is the better player on the better team, so I have to say James Harden.
Yeah, I knew the better team was definitely going to come up in this discussion, but I just wanted to do like the whole flip flop. Like if and it was really hard in my mind to if James Harden was on the Thunder and if Russell Westbrook was on the Rockets. And I just think that the Rockets roster, they bought into D'Antoni's system and they said like, how can we make this happen? And they got Ryan Anderson and Eric Gordon's been shooting really well. And they put shooters around him. And I think if you put Russ with those shooters, I'm not saying the same because some of the passes Harden makes are just damn good. And I think that he's better at drawing contact and sort of like driving and then kicking out than Westbrook is maybe. So, but I just think if you flip-flop them, I think Westbrook would still be at a triple-double and he would have the same amount of assists as he would get those 2 extra assists. Because, I mean, you talked about this last week about how bad the Thunder shooters are. You know, they're 28th in the league in three-point shooting, right? That's what you were saying?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that has to come into play, and you have to think about that. And I also have to see, like, I think that PER is also
they're both
rating.
They're both posting over 30 PER this year, which is absolutely insane. 30 PER has only been done 19 times in NBA history. An average PER is 15, just for those of you that don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah,
what I'm pulling up Harden is at 28.3 and Westbrook's almost at an even 30 now.
Yeah. So they're both around a 30.
Yeah, which is crazy. I mean, I'm not trying to take anything off of either one of them. That's crazy.
Oh, yeah. You're right. I accidentally had Westbrook's PER pulled up when I said that. Yeah, you're right. Yep.
But I mean, what do you think about that? The whole flip-flopping and like the most valuable to your team?
Yeah, I definitely see that. It's a good argument. It's hard for me to debate that Westbrook would have more success on the Rockets than Harden would on the Thunder. My only thing is that Harden himself is a much better three-point shooter than Westbrook. And I think that for the Rockets system to work as well as it is right now, you need that ball handler to be able to pull up from 3. But I mean, yeah, it's a good argument because I do think the Rockets would be better with Westbrook than the Thunder would with Harden. But at the same time, I mean, they're both just absolutely insane. That's why it's a fun argument to have because I don't think there's a really wrong answer, whichever one you pick of these two guys.
Yeah, I think you're right about the shooting. That I was also thinking. I thought about this a lot. The shooting is just Westbrook has improved, but Harden can still heat up like really. He can heat up in an instant, and he can get hot and stay hot. And Westbrook is more sporadic, and I think that wouldn't fit. And you're right, it wouldn't fit in Houston's system. But
yeah,
it is a fun conversation. But in my mind, I still feel like, which I know it's probably not going to happen at this point, but if LeBron can still that Bulls Cavaliers game last night was still really close when you think about the Cavaliers were missing 3 starters.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes.
And I think that still LeBron is not getting like his fair due. And I think it's hard when these guys are putting up these crazy numbers, and LeBron's still putting up pretty fairly crazy numbers. But it's just like, yeah, it's like a LeBron normal that we've just all come to like expect.
Yeah, like I said, you can name LeBron MVP every year, and you can name Pop Coach of the Year every year. I did want to quickly say, though, can we just appreciate how good the NBA is right now? Because we have 3 MVP candidates with Kevin Durant, Giannis, and LeBron James all shooting over 50% from the field. Like, that is absolutely insane. They are hitting over half their shots.
I think it's fun, but it's because we know it doesn't really matter. I think I did agree with Charles Barkley's comment about, there's like 3 years, and we've been saying this since the beginning of the year. there's like 3 or 4 teams that are are gonna be there at the end, and I'm not saying that it doesn't matter, but it really kind of doesn't, because
Yeah.
that in a 7-game series, LeBron's gonna take it to Giannis because he's
Yeah.
young, and
Yeah.
that in a 7-game series that even the Spurs could probably beat the Rockets. It would be interesting, and the Rockets might win, but they're not going to beat Golden State realistically. They have no
Yeah.
one to defend really. They're the 4 studs that Golden State trots out every night. So it is fun. It's fun because we get to see some pretty good regular season, but when it comes around playoff time, I think we're all going to remember that it's just like a
Yeah.
3-team race,
Yeah.
maybe 4.
Yeah. It's 2 front runners and then 2 teams that might be able to catch them, and then everybody else.
Yeah, that's really what it is. And then it's everyone else, like the Bucks getting experience in. I think I was listening to some other show about how the Lakers should try and fight for that 8 seed just so they can go to Golden State and get their ass kicked. So, and like it's just a good learning experience.
Yeah.
Like, they're young, and like one of these days, like it's gonna be like the Lakers and the Bucks, hopefully in the finals. I would love to see that in like 4 years.
Don't count out my Celtics with Gordon Hayward and Boogie on the team. And whoever they draft this year with that Nets pick.
Oh, yeah. Did you want to touch on Isaiah Thomas?
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about Isaiah Thomas. The 52-point game with 29 in the fourth quarter was impressive, very impressive. I'm still not ready to put him as a star in the league yet. I call him a pseudo-star, which is what I think Gordon Hayward is right now, is what I think Kemba Walker is right now, where they're really, really good players, but I don't see them as like the guy who can really take over a series and just win it for you. And that's what I define as a star.
Yeah, I would say that he's almost there. I was like 100% with you on that. He's just like a little below those other like superstar caliber kind of guys. But I think that he's starting to swing me towards like he is. And I think if he can continue this, and I don't know if Boston's going to pay him at the end of the year. He's going to be a free agent. It's going to be tricky what they're going to decide to do with him. But if maybe, I don't know who else would want him, and that's like a whole other thing I don't want to get into right now. But I think he's almost there. And out of everyone, I feel like he's got like that Westbrook determination where he's just going to go out and like fight for it. And I think that at the end of the day, you can't count that out, that heart factor.
Let me make probably the unpopular opinion here. I would rather have Avery Bradley than Isaiah Thomas, to be honest. I think he's a better defender. I think he's a really solid player. I think he's really underrated. He doesn't get enough credit for what he does. I think I'd rather have Avery Bradley than Isaiah Thomas.
I would agree with you. It hurts a little bit because Isaiah Thomas has kind of grown on me. Like New Year's Day, it's been a recent thing. The New Year's Day we were talking in that big group text message with all the armchair writers, and they were talking about how great Isaiah Thomas was, and I was like, "Whoa, guys, let's slow down."
Yeah,
the guy's not that great, but I'm sort of like swinging the other way on this guy. I think it was the 15 assists that he dropped. It was against the Jazz, right? Tuesday. Yeah, I think that just really showed like a whole other side to him, that if he can continue to grow and have that, he'll be valuable to somebody somewhere. But I would take Avery Bradley just because of the defense.
Yeah.
That strip on Carmelo at the end of the game on Christmas Day was like amazing. And you could tell Carmelo was so pissed, and that's what made it even better.
I'd rather have Gordon Hayward than both of them, though. Gordon Hayward's my guy right now. I love Gordon. Can I make a PSA real quick? Because it's something I wanted to say for a long time. I'm actually going to write an entire article about it. And you talking about Harden being on OKC reminded me, people need to stop saying that OKC would have had one of the best big threes of all time if Harden had stayed, because it's just not true. It's just not true. Harden and Westbrook are both too ball dominant for that to have worked out. and they both would have taken away too many shots from Kevin Durant, who's the best of the three. Like I said, I'm going to go into this in a whole article. I want people to stop saying that because it bothers me every time I hear it. Because it wouldn't have worked to the same. Like, people need to stop treating the NBA like a fantasy league. You know what I mean? Like, you need role players. You need guys like that. Like, having 5 stars on a team does not always equal success. I mean, it does in Golden State, but everywhere else it doesn't.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And also, Kevin Durant's a little bit ball dominant too. You saw that on Christmas Day, where he finally like engaged LeBron and was like, I'm gonna shoot and I'm gonna try and take over this game.
Yeah.
It does sort of feel like it's becoming his team. And I think that they would have had a similar problem in Oklahoma City. I think they could have got more for Harden or tried to work out something where they actually got something for both of them. I think hindsight, even Oklahoma City would have, if they would have known that they were both going to leave or they were going to have to make some moves, they would have tried to be smarter about it. But
yeah, the Harden though, they were just scared of getting nothing for him, which I get.
Yeah, and I mean, he hadn't really shown what he has shown now.
Yeah.
Then it was just flashes.
It was just scoring then too. He wasn't this great passer and all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So you're gonna have that up soon?
Yeah, soon. I'm working on it right now, actually.
Nice. So yeah, I think that's all we got for this week. Is there anything else you want to touch on? Any plugs you want to make?
No, I'm good. Just everybody should tune in and watch the Rockets this season. It's a lot of fun. They're really good. I've been saying that since the beginning.
Yeah, Harrison's on that the Rockets bandwagon now.
Yeah.
We'll see how long before the wheels fall off of that.
Yeah, we'll see.
I'm guessing somewhere in the playoffs it's going to start falling off.
Yeah, once they hit Golden State or San Antonio, I think it might fall apart. But
yeah, for sure. Yeah, so that's all for us this week. Make sure you check out Armchair All-Americans. We've been a little bit idle during the holiday season. We're going to start ramping up again pretty soon. I should have something up next week. Harrison's got a piece he's working on. We have a couple that have gone up recently, so make sure you check that out. And that's all for us this week.
All right. See you, man.
See you.